Joining me now is former State Department spokeswoman, U.S. Navy Reserve officer, and Tennessee congressional candidate Morgan Ortagus. Great to see you, Morgan. The only people who believe in Democrats are BLM, Antifa terrorists, criminals, the mainstream press, and America's enemies. Are you surprised that Democrats, the name Democrats, now equal toxic for a majority of America?
No, I'm not surprised. First of all, you could look at suddenly, as we're getting close to election in November, what's happening, Chris? Suddenly the pandemic is starting to go away, right? Cities are starting to lift masking requirements. Supposedly the CDC is going to come out with more lenient guidelines. Not that anyone's following them at this point, but I think I'm really glad you brought this up because we have 4 rural counties in my district, in Tennessee 5, and I think what's really fascinating. And I'm from a very rural county as well. I grew up in one in Central Florida. And what's fascinating is you really see the disdain from a lot of elite institutions towards people in rural areas. And I don't quite understand that. I mean, having grown up from a father who's a small business owner, we grew up in a small town in Central Florida. I think that this is really the heartbeat of America, right? This is where people like my father, they have small businesses. Like many of my uncles, they joined the military. These are people with great values and they choose to live in small areas. But for some reason, so many institutions disdain that choice of lifestyle. I think one of the things is, Rick Grinnell, my friend, former ambassador to Germany in the Trump administration, Rick Grinnell has always had, I think, a great idea. He said that we should take some of the big institutions in Washington, D.C. When you look at the entire federal government is there, why aren't we trying to move them around the country? Why is everything concentrated in D.C.? And I think what happens, because everything is concentrated in D.C., people get there, they forget about where they're from, they forget about, the average everyday American who makes America great. And I think we should start to take these institutions. Rick had a brilliant idea. We should move them around the country so that you don't get all the wealth and power concentrated in one place.
That's a great idea. I want to transition, if I can, to the Spygate of Hillary Clinton. Durham report allegations that she actually responded to this yesterday. She said that conservative media is awfully close to defamation and she might take legal action. All we're doing is reading the filings by John Durham. The left-wing press made it all up using her fake charges of Russia-Trump collusion. Is Hillary's threat really a sign that the walls are closing in on her and her cohorts?
Well, listen, if anyone's going to sue the media, it should be Donald Trump suing the media for constantly getting it wrong. I mean, he pointed this out, that he was being spied on by the Hillary Clinton campaign. And listen, I'm a part of a campaign right now. I've been around campaigns. I've never heard anyone talk like this, or anyone even propose that you try to hack into the opposition's servers. This is really dangerous stuff. It shouldn't be allowed in America. We should take this really seriously. And I think the fact that it's not getting the same coverage that it deserves in the media, it's really a tragedy because, depending on which news you watch, you're covering it, Chris, it's great. But if you're not watching you on Newsmax, if you're not watching other, mainstream center-right outlets, you may not even hear about this story at all.
Yeah, 4 GOP senators decided they wouldn't do their jobs, show up for a vote that would have defunded vaccine mandates. Can we assume that Americans' medical freedom simply wasn't a priority for Senators Mitt Romney, James Inhofe, Lindsey Graham, and Richard Burr, that they couldn't be bothered to show up and do their jobs? And since you're running for office, do you think that's a responsible way to conduct yourself in government?
Well, we should absolutely do everything that we can to fight back against these mandates. It is up to, we've always believed this, right? We're conservatives. We believe decisions should be made at the community level, at the local level. Private businesses should be able to make these decisions. And I think that's why you've seen some positive momentum in the Supreme Court challenging these actions. People don't want federal overreach into their daily lives. They don't want to have to show their vaccine card and their ID to go get a hamburger at a restaurant. And the fact that you have to do that in America today, I think is a real tragedy.
You want to comment on what Biden just said? He believes that Russia has already made up its mind to go to war.
Well, Chris, I wish I had another 10 or 20 minutes of your show and you and I could talk about this. I just don't understand what this administration is doing. They are constantly on the defense. They are constantly reacting to the Russians. And by the way, he comes out, he's made several press conferences this week. Make no mistake, Chris, this is an utter failure for the Biden administration. They have said that everything they're going to do is to lead with intensive diplomacy. I don't even really know what that means. You've got most of Biden's national security team in Europe right now meeting. And so if Russia does invade, this is no victory for them, right? I'm not quite sure why they keep going out and talking to media. Maybe they think the more they talk about it, the less likely it is that Putin will do it. I think that they have wasted the last year where they had opportunities to be the type of president Donald Trump was, to be a strong president. I say this often, it's weak presidents that beget war, not strong ones. And listen, I think everybody is certainly concerned about this, but they should be concerned not only about the Biden administration failing on the world stage, but they're failing at home, right? We know our border is overrun and insecure. We know inflation is through the roof. We know people are concerned about jobs and the economy, right? They're concerned when they go to the grocery store. Can they fill up the car entirely and still fill up the gas tank on the way home? These are not the decisions that we should have to make in America, especially in rural America, as you and I were talking about in the beginning of the show. And that's why I think, Chris, you're going to see a return to conservative values. People like me, I saw somebody wrote it today about values moms. I think I'm a values mom, right? I've gotten fired up by what the Biden administration has done to America, both at home and abroad. And I hope your audience can go to morganortagus.com and learn more about my candidacy.
Well, I think that you said it right. I think that a weak president invites war. And that's exactly what happens every single time we get a Democrat, a left-wing extremist that is in the Oval Office, and a strong president, contrary, dissuades war because America's enemies don't want to test the United States at that point. Morgan Ortagus, it's great talking to you. Thank you very much.